One last game. One last push. We've earned the right to be here, and now it's time to finish the job. Portland are strong, but so are we. No Julio Cesar, but this quote is built for moments like this. Leaders step up when it matters most. Leave everything on the pitch, play with belief, and let's bring that trophy home. One more time, let's go.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 85 of Red Bull KloppBot here on Sean Does FM of the New York Red Bulls. I hope you're doing well and come up day. It's the final episode of the series and it's going to be an MLS Cup Final at home where we take on the top team from the West all season in the Portland Timbers. We're still in the save, yet to lose to a Western Conference team, so fingers crossed that does continue and we can pick up the MLS Cup for the first time in club history. But this does come off the back of the Eastern Conference Final that we played a couple of days ago against Atlanta United. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Thankfully, just did enough to come back from an equalising goal in the second half to pick up a 3-1 win, albeit a yellow card to our captain in Julio Cesar does mean that he's suspended for this game. So a little bit of a big loss for us there going into this final. You can see there a really quality player for the MLS, but unfortunately he won't be available for our last game here of this save. But to be fair, we've got a pretty good backup who can come in his place, and Emerson Sevillano, who we did sign going to the start of this season. Yeah, pretty good backup now with 2 caps for the Colombian national team. So that's the only area really we're a little bit weaker than we'd like to be. And the reason that is the case because finally, Facundo Molina, who's been working his way back from injury during the course of these playoffs, especially the last 2 that we have played, the semi-final and the final in the Eastern Conference, is now recommended to play a full game. So Molina can come back in there for Castillo, who to be fair hasn't been doing too well as a starter so far in the playoffs. Molina has come off the bench and got 1 goal at least during the course of the knockouts. Hopefully he can bring that form from the start here in this MLS Cup Final and hopefully can end the save by picking up nearly all the trophies in our final season here at the Red Bulls. Of course, did miss out on the Leagues Cup at the start of the season, won the CONCACAF Champions League. Fingers crossed we can back up our Eastern Conference Final winner with one here in this MLS Cup at home as we take on the Portland Timbers. These guys were second behind us in the Supporters' Shield, top seeds in the West, and made their way through the playoffs there off the back of 3 games against LAFC. They just did enough there, picking up wins at home like we did to beat those guys 2-1, and then 3-0 wins over the Galaxy in Dallas to wrap up that Western Conference. To be fair, they've been winning their games in those last couple of rounds a bit more comfortably than we have with our Red Bulls, but certainly a team that we need to respect. Their manager, Daniel Farker, of course, a bit of a big-name manager in the MLS, considering he's previously spent time at Leeds, Gladbach, Wolfsburg, and before then also at Norwich, and was of course one of Klopp's juniors back when he was in charge at Dortmund. So a little bit of history there with the KloppBot with Daniel Farker, and of course he was the All-Star Game Manager this season, and we had the privilege of doing that last year. We didn't pick up the winner, he did, so fingers crossed here we can actually show that we're better than him in this final. Their captain, Juan David Mosquera, a very handy right back there from the Portland Timbers. Can't see the star rating for some reason, which is interesting, but quite well rounded and has been there for a fair while. Has their captain at right back, their vice captain, Scott Wharton, the English centre back, is 34 years old these days, so is getting on that dribbling not too good. But to be fair, you'd imagine they won't be using him in a role where that does get used, but a handy player in his first season there in the MLS. But their key player, that would be from America, Mikhail Kaufman, 30 years old, a winger come striker, and attribute-wise, just looks like a little bit of an upgrade there on those 2 players that we did see previously, but hopefully with the likes of Sane and Molina and some of our really good players we've got here these days in this Red Bull squad, we can pick up a winner and end the save on a high. This team has been brilliant for us ever since we made the move from RB Leipzig, but so far they've kind of been chokers, just like the club has been in real life at times. They do have a little bit of a curse on them when it does come to winning trophies. Fingers crossed that comes to an end in today's episode, our final game of the save, and we can pick up this MLS Cup. And a quick look here at the team sheets for this final game of the Save the 2030 MLS Cup Final. There we are in decent form and we're pretty close to our best 11 as you saw before. Just Sevillano coming in for the suspended Cesar Lamb on the bench, and also switching back around our strikers with Molina now being able to play a full 90 minutes. There were Portland going with that 4-2-3-1. Fingers crossed we can beat them, keep this perfect record we've got going against teams from the West, and pick up for the first time in club history that MLS Cup. And we have to wait a few while for the first highlight of this game, but just shy of the half-hour mark here is a free kick there which the Portland goalkeeper will take it. It doesn't take them too long here to actually get themselves on the front foot so far. This game has been pretty even with a few shots on target. They've had more shots overall, but none on target yet, so a little bit of a well-balanced game so far. Good chance there for Thomas Ostrak, but thankfully, Unsane there comes up with a decent save to tip that one high and wide. So the first decent chance here does come to the Portland Timbers, but thankfully we get enough there on the ball to make sure that goes out for a corner, and then a foul on Sam there. I think that was from the player who had the chance just before, but now again there's a highlight and Portland are on the ball. Mosquera with an orange injury, didn't actually notice that before, but they're staying him their captain. But again here, they're on the front foot. Metafonte will take a shot on the Beefy. Thought there was quite a low quality chance, but Insane does get forced again into a save. So these highlights so far a little bit concerning as Van der Hoover will take this corner, plays that one to Ramos, but thankfully a good foot in there from Matthias Zanotti should break up this highlight. Still 0-0, but we do see the throw-in off the back of that. Ramos plays this one back here to one of his teammates, Mosquera. Nice ball forward to Kaufman, who fingers crossed went offside, but the assistant referee I don't think's put their flag up there. A bit hard to tell with all those target logos. This might be a 1-0 lead here for the Portland Timbers. Thankfully, he was offside, to be fair. Don't think the tell got shown there for the offside that we usually see in FM, but Mosquera there with a first time pass, to be fair. That's a very close call. In fact, to be fair, I'm actually looking at the wrong player, so maybe that was a bit more clear than I thought it was, but still, based on the lines, that was quite close to Noddy and Sevillano on some yellow cards, which is not ideal. And also Sam at left wing is 6.4, so that was a little bit of an average first half. Might make some subs here, take off those guys on yellow. So aren't we at right back? Ryan Lamb for Sevillano, our third choice ball wing midfielder, will get some action here in this MLS Cup Final. Also Birchimus at left wing, great for us last season. Fingers crossed those guys can make an impact, because honestly, pretty poor first half from us there, especially those highlights that we did see. A bit lucky that it's still 0-0. And it looks like the momentum is going to continue here into the second half. The first highlight is a corner here to Portland. They'll put this one far post for Warden. Thankfully, Tick Bitch will head that one away, albeit Metafonte now is on the ball. We'll try and square that one. Thankfully, a touch on that one from Insane. It goes back out there to Van der Hoeven, but thankfully, he just puts that one wide. But so far, all these highlights are in favour of the Portland Timbers. We haven't really shown much off the back of the half-hour mark when they started to get all these highlights. And now, Molina on a 6.4 maybe. Shouldn't have rushed him back in to the starting lineup. Castillo can come on for him. But we are now an hour into the game. There is an encouraged, cuts out a highlight, and it's still 0-0, albeit now we go down the other end here for a throw-in. This time in our favour, aren't we? Tries to float that far post for Birchimus. We put that one back in the mixer. Unfortunately, no one home, but aren't we? Can get us back on the ball. We try and go again, far post, no one home, and centre there with an awful pass and Noble with a chance here for Portland on the counter-attack, but Zenta thankfully with a good tackle makes up for that pass, and now we get back on the attack here. William will start to make his way forward, loses out there, but aren't we there to tidy things up. He'll take on the shot from a tight angle, not a good option. It's still 0-0 with only 20 minutes left, and William goes down to a red heart. It's our final sub, and to be fair, he's not doing too well on a red heart. Zell can come on for him, of course, at a big bench impact of one of our previous playoff games, as we did just cut out there a corner that was about to happen.
Ew.
And oh dear, that is the worst timing ever. We've made our final sub, and Zhao Hongyu straight away gets forced from the field. We're going to be down to 10 men in this MLS Cup Final, so because of that, we'll try Sane at right wing, and instead of playing a bit more to the right-hand side, Pirani can go a bit more centrally. We do demand more, and thankfully that cuts out a highlight there that would have been in favour of Portland. Now actually, we're starting to show a bit more than we were for most of that first half. We finally get another highlight here, but a bit worried with only 10 men on the field. Fingers crossed if this does go to extra time, we can make a sub and go back to 11, because otherwise That's a pretty cheesy way to be denied this MLS Cup. A little ball over the top there. It just goes over the bar. Insane there almost gets caught out late on this one. We will go a bit wider and maybe we'll put Sane back into midfield considering he's about to retire. Don't think his feet have much to him these days. Also, we might just put Antwi onto support instead of attack, seeing as well only one player down that right-hand side. And right off the back of that there is a highlight. Tikvich with a free kick. Let's see what he does. He hopefully takes it nice and short. Instead, he gives it straight to Portland. Now Metafonte will cut inside, takes on a shot, a big deflection. It's a Tikvich own goal off the back of a shocking free kick that he just took. We'll go attacking off the back of that, but seriously, that's a terrible ball there looking for Berchamus. Zenta can't quite get to that before Metafonte takes on the shot. Big old deflection, which does insane, but Tikvich there has a shocker yet again in a big game, and Portland take a 1-0 lead. To be fair, they probably deserve it, but off the back of that, we're going to go a bit more attacking here with our player roles. We'll put there our wing-backs on to attack, also the ball-wing midfielder onto support. To be fair, not too sure how much more we can do here with these other roles that we're using. Also, we probably can't actually change much else. We're already playing quite positively here and did change to attacking off the back of that goal we did concede. Now is a free kick here in our favour. Sane flicks that one back into the mixer, and I think Castillo there hit that one onto the woodwork off the back of a touch there from their goalkeeper. But now the highlights do start, so hopefully going to get a chance to make this 1-1 and take this one to extra time. Otherwise, a bit of a bitter blow, ending the save with an injury that took us down to 10 men. That could be one of the worst subs that we've made in the save. But to be fair, William was on a red heart, just didn't realise that Zhao was so done injury prone. But we are on the attack now. Nice ball over the top for Castillo, who puts it away. We'll see this time if he is onside. Of course, in the first half, a quite close call there for Portland, but Castillo off the bench has grabbed an equaliser. We make it 1-1. Not too sure off the back of this if we should drop back a little bit with that one-man disadvantage, but Pirani actually interesting option to play that to Castillo instead of Antwi on the overlap. But thankfully, a very well-timed run and a first-time finish can put that one past the Portland goalkeeper, and thankfully he's just stayed onside. Another very close call there. Thankfully, it goes in favour of the home team. Will encourage and hopefully get one more chance here late on in this game before it does go to extra time, but it won't. We're going to extra time here in this final, but to be fair, I'm quite happy with that as long as we can make a sub and go back to 11 players, but we can't. Cheers, MLS. Off the back of that, we probably want to go back a little bit more to how we usually play Ryan Lamb. We might just leave on support, but we'll just make sure here that Zenta's on support as well. Antwi on attack's a little bit of a risk, but is our only player down that right-hand side. But really, that's not ideal. No subs here in extra time. So we've still got 10 players thanks to that injury to Zhao Hongyu, but thankfully have taken it here into an extra half hour off the back of that Castillo equaliser. And we don't have to wait long at all here for the first highlight of extra time. It's a corner here in our favour. We take it short. Pirani starts to cut and field. We'll pick out the Castillo, who of course scored the equaliser there, which we desperately needed down a man. But now we try and spread this one out there. Berchamus starts to cut inside. Might be looking here for a shot, but a decent save there from the Portland goalkeeper. But all of a sudden, are slightly on the front foot. A bit surprising with that one-man disadvantage that we do have. But now a set piece is a bit messy there inside the box. Portland can clear that one away, but Zenta's there to tidy things up. Starts to make his way forward there down the left-hand side. Back to Tikvich, who goes in there to Lamb. Back out to Tikvich. Zenta just currently being pressed here a little bit. Starting to go backwards down that left-hand side. Now Sane goes all the way back to Insane. But to be fair, this highlight does continue to keep rolling. So not too sure here what might be going on now. I'm a little bit worried because Pirani there loses out on the ball, so Portland get a chance here to clear their lines. They pump that one deep. Thankfully, Tikvich can head that one down though for Lamb, and Pirani will pick out Antwi here in a fair bit of space. What can he do here just inside of the byline? Picks out Hugo Castillo, who certainly is looking like a much better bench impact player than he was as a starter during the rest of these playoffs. That's 2 big goals from him now. We take a 2-1 lead, and we will just go a bit more circumspect here with those player roles, put them how they usually are instead of what we had before. For some reason there, I click on Antwi because maybe going on to support with him, not the worst idea with no one else down our right-hand side, but that could be a massive goal from our backup striker in Hugo Castillo, who, to be fair, as I said, hadn't been doing too well replacing Molina so far in these playoffs, but thankfully can put that one away there past Grutterwell at close range. He did a good touch on that one. But now while we're here also, probably not the worst idea to try and time waste just a little bit, especially with that one-man disadvantage. We'll lower the tempo and also tell our guys to be more disciplined, tell the goalkeeper to slow the pace down, and fingers crossed we can see not many highlights for the remainder of extra time and actually pick up a win here with 10 men for a decent chunk of this game. There's a throw for us here inside the final third. One more goal might just put this one to bed. Sane picks out Castillo in a ton of space. He puts that one top left corner. The assistant referee, though, this time might spoil the party and ruin that hat-trick that he might have picked up, and indeed, he's offside, and to be fair, probably didn't need to be. He was in absolute tons of space there. It's a very close call. I guess that makes up for the Portland one from the first half. That could have been a hat-trick for Castillo. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And now Portland with a free kick pretty shortly off the back of there. And they now start to get on the attack against our team, and they play one back in there, and there's a shot from Van der Heuvel. Lamb, for some reason, heads that one out to Ramos, who squares it, and it's a goal there for Pilu, and I'm not really too sure there what Ryan Lamb's doing in this situation. A shot there that gets blocked by Aren't Lamb just heads it straight out to one of their players, and unfortunately Peru can put that one past Insane at a tight angle. Again, they're trying to blame Tikbich. I'm pretty sure that should be more on Ryan Lamb. Tikbich not having the greatest game, but now again, we'll go a bit more positive with these 10 men on the field. Do it where we're doing when we scored those 2 goals, saying as it kind of worked. We won't go attacking just yet, but 2-2 with still one more half left of extra time. There's a highlight here straight from the restart. Ball over the top there for Hugo Castillo, makes his way into the box. Fingers crossed these changes give us immediate pay. There's a chance there to Gabriel Pereira, to be fair. Quite low percentage, and puts that one just over the top left corner. Be fair, he can score some pretty big goals, but that one not quite on target. As I said, though, has scored from that range before, but now we make our way towards the last 10 minutes of this game, which might be going to a penalty shootout. To be fair, with our 10-man situation, that might not be the worst thing, but a shocking pass there. It's from Tikbich. I think the game at this point might be picking on him. A good chance here late for Kaufman, who was onside. Thought there he might have just snuck off, but thankfully Insane comes up with a massive save to keep this at 2-2. Insane now on quite a good rating, so certainly helping us out here is our still relatively new goalkeeper. Sane heads that one away not too well, to be fair, in a long-range effort there for Alfaro, but thankfully that one comes off the woodwork, and it's still 2-2, but Portland now starting to get somewhat on the front foot off the back of that equaliser that they did grab. We just tried there, go a bit more defensive. It didn't really work, so hopefully now we're going a bit more positive. We'll start to get a few more chances here in our favour. But Kaufman does get played in behind yet again and was onside again, but Insane now with a couple of massive saves. So our goalkeeper keeping us right in this game with only 10 men. Thankfully, we deal with the danger there at the near post from that corner. Just 3 minutes left here in this game. A goal kick to Portland. They take it short. Unfortunately, it doesn't take them too long there to work their way into our half, but thankfully Emi, good interception, plays it forward to Sane. He's got options. What will he do? Plays it straight to Perez, and all of a sudden a long ball forward, and Richardson now on the attack here for Portland, makes his way just inside the byline, pulls that one back there for a teammate Holgate. A big deflection. Kaufman will finally put one home. Fingers crossed though, he's straight offside. Otherwise, going to be pretty tough to come back from this one. He stayed on and finally scores a goal, to be fair. He should have scored one by now too. Big saves from Insane before this effort from Holgate. It comes off the woodwork, straight to Kaufman. Maybe this curse is a real thing. We haven't broken it so far. We need to now go full out attack for the last couple of minutes of this game. We'll go fairly wide and also put as many players here as we can onto attacking duties. Even Insane in goal, to be fair though, he's had a brilliant game stats-wise. We've actually had the higher XG up until that final chance, which Portland did have, but we failed the KloppBot at the final hurdle. We miss out on the MLS Cup. Look at them about to celebrate like they've done something massive. They beat a team who went down to 10 men through injury. You big boys from Portland, you should be ashamed of yourselves for celebrating this. Honestly, I'm pretty gutted about that one. If we kept 11 players out there, pretty sure we could have done them there in extra time. We actually did quite well to get ourselves back in front there in extra time, but unfortunately, a couple of goals that we did concede there, despite the best efforts of Insane. Actually was probably one of our better players in that game. Unfortunately, most of our big signings didn't really perform. Have to take off there Sevillano at halftime, and also William. That sub, oh so crucial, and Zal coming on, of course, getting injured. But unfortunately, despite the best efforts of Insane and Castillo, we miss out on the MLS Cup yet again here at the Red Bulls, and overall in the save, a 3-2 extra time defeat to the Portland Timbers. Now I'm trying to go forward towards the end of season review here for our final season with the Red Bulls and the squad, and not happy with us because we didn't win the MLS Cup. I think at some point we're going to have to tell them it might actually be you guys that might be the problem. We'll try and say here we win and lose collectively. It should be shit. It's not all my fault. Thankfully, these players actually understand that, because I thought there for a minute I might get sacked before we get through the rest of the season. You can see there the board, disappointed. We didn't challenge for the MLS title. We were in the final. I'm not really too sure what more we could do about challenging. Also, the supporters disappointed that we didn't win the MLS. At least that one does make sense. Really not too sure what the board is smoking there, but thankfully we haven't been sacked, because that would have been a bit awkward for you guys who wanted to pick up the save. And yeah, definitely have a reason to, because we didn't pick up that MLS Cup going down to 10 men because of blooming injury, and thankfully we just do enough there to avoid the sack after failing to challenge for the MLS title. And off the back of that team meeting, which thankfully sorted out those players, off the back of that bottle job yet again in the MLS Cup Final, seriously, I think this Red Bulls team might actually be cursed. We've got the end of season review, not a bad season, that CONCACAF Champions League to go alongside that US Open Cup for the second straight season, and we finally pick up the Eastern Conference, even though we actually walked our way to that in the league phase last season before Columbus did us in the playoffs, but missing that MLS Cup and also the Leagues Cup, which is a bit annoying seeing as it's now been a couple of weeks in real life since we've picked up that CONCACAF Champions League. We continue to be quite big bottlers here with this pretty stacked Red Bulls team who unfortunately didn't get the job done in terms of the signing of the season. Somehow William there has got done duty. It's Ezekiel Insane who, to be fair, was quite good in that final, but he only played 10 games. It does seem a little bit weird that he's signing of the season, maybe because it was on a free. William, certainly our most impactful one, I'd say, with that 7.4 average rating. Also, Sam did quite decently at left wing, coming in for MV. Castillo, Sevillano, and Holland, they did okay, two of those on a free. So did quite good work there with those two, especially Castillo, quite a promising player, as you saw in that final. Came up big for us there, unfortunately, though, being down to 10 men was a little bit there of a difference maker. But overall, I think our squad this season was pretty good. But they're just a big bunch of bottlers, unfortunately, can't quite finish the job. The players we got rid of, Halsawi, Nelson Insfran, Bemba Koulibaly, and Renier, of course, Koulibaly. That was quite late on in the season. The reason that we did bring in Insane going forward to this season's results. The MLS looks pretty good in terms of the league season. Thankfully, you don't see playoff results here on the screen. We did so well until that final, losing with 10 men because of injury. But overall, picked up the Supporters' Shield there by 9 points. To be fair, I don't think we did quite as well in terms of points tally as we did last season, but that probably got affected by the fact we went quite deep in the CONCACAF Champions League this season, and we went on and won the whole thing. So thankfully, we picked up that Champions League quite early this season. Unfortunately, couldn't quite back it up in the Leagues Cup there. Got beaten by Atlas Guadalajara. I think that was back in the Eastern semi-final. Indeed, it is there. It says it on the pivotal match, so that was a bit disappointing, but thankfully held on that US Open Cup with some quite comfy wins for the most part, apart from our first game against New England and a derby in the quarterfinals, but in the end took on a USL team in the final and gave them a battering to held on there to our US Open Cup. So 3 trophies this season, Champions League, US Open Cup, and we picked up the Eastern Conference Final going forward to the moments to remember. Biggest win, 6-1 in the MLS over Cincinnati. Castillo there with a hat-trick match to remember. Obviously, Champions League final, we pick up our second Champions League of the save off the back of with RB Leipzig a couple of seasons ago, and the goal of the season did come in the Champions League, and it was scored by Leroy Sané for the second year in a row, I think, a free kick there from the German who will now retire. And here's a look at that goal. It's from a relatively tight angle, but a lovely curving hip there to put that one past the goalkeeper at his near post into the top left corner. Decent goal, but as I said, quite similar actually to what picked up goal of the season for him last season. Sane does quite like that award, and going forward The finances, somehow less broadcast revenue, which to be fair, doesn't make much sense considering I'm pretty sure we went deeper in every competition this season, so not too sure what happened there, but everything else has gone up. Our reputation is still the same somehow, despite the fact we picked up that Champions League. Top shirt sellers William, Pirani, Molina, Sam and Bircham, to be fair, a couple there of our left wing options, and new signings as well there in Sam and William going forward. The overall best of them, to be fair, this does make a ton of sense. If you're wondering what's happened to Sane, he's already retired, so that's the reason that nothing's coming up for him. But apart from that, it does make sense. Obviously, Koulibaly in goal, because Insane wasn't here for too long, but that definitely was our best 11 for the season. Everyone on a green rating, apart from Caesar and Koulibaly, at 6.680. Certainly had a couple of bad games there in goal for us, to be fair. Insane might have actually been a bit of an upgrade once he did get here, but unfortunately not quite enough of one to keep us from losing that MLS Cup Final, despite the fact he actually had a blooming good game. And going forward here to the Club Awards, the Fans Player of the Season, it is Gabriel Pirani. I said it lots of times last week while making our way through the Leagues Cup and also during the CONCACAF Champions League. Pirani have been really consistent in this final season and gets that Player of the Season there with a 7.5 average rating. Young Player of the Season, William, who, as I said, probably got done dirty not picking up signing of the season somehow. That went to Insane. Goal of the season, you saw the top goal scorer, that was Molina with 22. Pirani, the most assists with 23. Most player of the matches actually went to Sam, a bit surprising there, with 6, the highest average rating. That's Pirani. That's why he got Player of the Year. Record breakers, Pirani got the most assists in the season. Koulibaly, the most clean sheets with 18. So certainly a good effort from him considering he wasn't here the last couple of months of the season. Edelman, the most appearances by a player for the club now with 274. Highest transfer fee paid, that was for William. And going over the competition awards, Pirani got the golden ball for the Champions League. The USA Player of the Year also Gabriel Pirani. Defender of the Year in the MLS, that went to Zenta. Molina, the top goal scorer in the Champions League, and William got the Young Player of the Year. Unfortunately, we got beaten to the Manager of the Year by Daniel Farker because he beat us with 10 men in the MLS Cup Final. Going forward, history in the making. It was a good season, just if only we won that final like we should have if we had 11 players out there. And here's the overall manager timeline. We'll go back right to the very start, and when we did kick off the save and just run through it quickly, you guys can check out and pause if you do need to see anything. Obviously, we start off there at Omiya Rhodesia, making our way up from J2 and then winning the J1 in our first season. Unfortunately, the KloppBot didn't allow us to have a crack at the Asian Champions League. We then went to RB Leipzig. We picked up the Europa League in our first season there. Also, the following season, the UEFA Super Cup. Then we started in the Bundesliga back-to-back years. Unfortunately, it was Manchester United who did us in the semi-finals of our first crack at the Champions League. But going forward a little bit further, you'll see that once we make our way forward to 2028, we picked up both the Bundesliga as well as that UEFA Champions League. I think in the final, we might have beaten Barcelona, then made the move to the Red Bulls. We did quite well to get them into the playoffs in that first season, but to go out quite early last season, walked our way to the Supporters' Shield, but then got beaten quite early in the playoffs. There you can see it there, the record, that was 92 points. So certainly a lot more than we got this season, but did pick up that Champions League. We'll just go forward now to the very end, because for some reason that's gone back to the start, which we don't want. But unfortunately, despite the fact that we retained the Supporters' Shield, got the Eastern Conference, and of course, and amongst that, the US Open Cups. Actually, it was 4 trophies. Not too sure why only 3 popped up there at the start of that season review. We didn't pick up the MLS Cup, which really was the big goal for this season. But unfortunately, there will be a job for you guys instead of one for me. And going forward, there you can see the overall best 11 here at the Red Bulls. We're only here for a couple of seasons. Some of these players we did not use, but still, that's quite heavily there, influenced by our 2 and a bit years at the club. Before we wrap things up here for the save, a quick look as well at what's going on with all the other Red Bull clubs, starting off with our most recent one in RB Leipzig, who of course are right smack being in the middle of a Bundesliga season, seeing as we are in the MLS. But these days it's Mikel Arteta who is in charge. The managerial history since we've left has been quite interesting, as you're about to see. Nagelsmann went there for a year, then he got offered the Bayern Munich job, so it's just like it's going back to 2019-2020. He did the same thing, just about 10 years later. To be fair though, actually, it was Man City that he left for before going back to Bayern Munich. So Nagelsmann does love going to Leipzig and then leaving the little traitor there at 44 years old. Then Luis Enrique had a pretty good season, picked up one league winner in the Bundesliga, caretaker manager for a couple of days before they employed Arteta. So they do come into the season as defending Bundesliga champions, do RB Leipzig, and currently in quite a strong position. They're on top by 5 points over Bayern Munich. So Leipzig have continued to do pretty well since we left, despite the fact they have gone through a fair number of managers. Now we go down to RB Salzburg. One of the two clubs that we didn't actually manage during the course of the save, which is a little bit weird there. From the KloppBot, you can see that currently they're on top of the Austrian Bundesliga, but to be fair, not by as much as you might expect. If you're going to look at their history in terms of the club overall and hopefully what they've been doing in terms of the last couple of seasons of the save. Once I find the right screen and go to it, where can we find this? It will be over here in history. You can see they actually haven't been doing as well as you might expect them to be. A little bit of a yo-yo club. They won the Bundesliga back in 2025-26, second, then fifth in 27-28. That was one of the reasons that the KloppBot did think about sending us there, but they did bounce back the following year before then finishing second the past season in the Austrian Bundesliga. So certainly they've been a bit more up and down than you might expect there from Salzburg, but they're looking okay. They're still up there as one of the best clubs in Austria. Now we go over and have a look at Bragantino, the other club that we didn't manage during the course of the save. And the reason for that is, of course, that they did pick up the Champions League. They're the Copa Libertadores in South America, so really didn't actually need to manage those guys during the course of the save. They've been doing pretty well off the back of actually getting relegated all the way back in 2024 down to Serie B, but they got immediately promoted, then went on and won the league in their first season back up in Serie A. Since then, they've been doing a pretty good job last year, a bit average, finishing down in 15th, but amongst all that, they did pick up that Copa Libertadores in 2027, and in the past season that they've just had, they got done a little bit dirty there on goal differential by Flamengo in a very, very tight title race there. Lots of teams on 69 points, bit of a freeway there, but unfortunately they don't get the job done. But Bragantino have done pretty well despite that relegation and the fact we haven't been in charge. And to round things off, our first club, Omiya Arudija, back in Japan, who unfortunately are probably the club that we should have stayed at a little bit longer when we had that first chance to try and go for the Asian Champions League. The KloppBot sent us to RB Leipzig. They then got relegated straight back down to the J2 off the back of being champions of J1 the season before. And ever since then, they've come close to getting promoted a couple of times, but bottled things in the playoffs. And yeah, they're struggling currently. Omiya Arudija the past season, they finished in 8th. If we're going to look at the league table, not that close to a promotion spot. So unfortunately, they're now down in J2 and kind of stuck there in the second tier of Japan. To be fair, this season, a bit of a weird one, because Yokohama F. Marinos also down there in the J2, but they go straight back up to the J1. So unfortunately, I think the KloppBot there did do Omiya Arudija a little bit dirty. Might need to build that squad a bit more than we did. But apart from that, it's been a pretty good save. Have fun at RB Leipzig. Just if only we picked up that MLS Cup there with the New York Red Bulls. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this save, which is supposed to get us through until FM25. But obviously that's not a thing now. So we'll come back at the start of next week and get stuck into a new save, which will be a little bit of an around the world journeyman with nations loaded up from all 6 continents. So we'll see how that goes. We could do a hexagon challenge, but I think just mainly we'll play it on vibes and see what sort of career we can do there with a good old journeyman. But if you enjoyed this series with the Red Bull clubs here on FM24, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well to make sure you don't miss the start of that new series come the start of next week, starting off there by trying to find our first job, which could be interesting with all the nations that we will have loaded up. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.